name is Kevin Eastman. I am officially the co-creator of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Peter Laird and myself had this crazy idea of a turtle that would be a martial artist, a mutant martial artist. It's kind of a natural joke. Slow moving turtle, fast moving martial artist, so it made us laugh. So we created the concept, the story, and we both write and draw. And so we together shared the chores of writing and drawing the first issue and many more issues to come. And that was 1984 was when the first issue premiered, and we've been drawing turtles for a living ever since.
And as an avid lifelong fan of Ninja Turtles, I can't thank you enough. And so one of our kids in Italy, and they wanted to know, have you always been into art, or did you kind of just grow into loving it?
I definitely, I've always been into art. In fact, my grandmother was, she used to paint a lot with watercolors, and my dad was, I think he wanted to be an artist, but he grew up in a very old-fashioned home, so it was like, you have to get a real job. You know, arts, you can't really make a living doing art. So I definitely inherited some of the skills, but the interest was mine in that from the very first children's book / comic book I saw, that was something that I felt combining words and pictures and telling my own stories visually was my calling. And man, I just never looked back. It was just something that I've had a dream to do since I was very, very young, probably, 8, 9, 10 years old.
Well, one of the kids wanted to know, how long did it take you to kind of hone your skills?
I'm almost 60, and I'm still honing my skills. What I mean by that is you never stop growing and learning. And I always tell students and friends and people that visit me at shows or ask questions online, if you're interested in being a sports star, a writer, a musician, you much like being an artist, you have to draw and you have to work at it every single day. And for me, I think, when I was 21 years old, when Peter and I've been drawing probably since I was 8 or 9 or 10 years old, like I said. And I was 21 years old when Peter and I put out the first issue of the Turtles. And every issue, every year, every story we tell, I learn something new and I learn something else. So it's a lifelong quest, but you do get better, and you have, as you get older, you have less days when you just want to tear up the drawing and throw it away. you keep at it, you try harder, and you push through.
So, and I was kind of curious about this, so I'm going to kind of riff off of one of these kids' questions, but I grew up with the comic books and the cartoons and then the movies. And so were you a part of that creative process to see how they evolved as like just part of pop culture?
Yes, we were. We're very lucky in that the fact that Peter and I created them and we self-published them, we also owned all rights to the Turtles. We owned anything. We were able to say what could be done with them or what couldn't be done with them. So every one of those opportunities, whether it was a cartoon show or toys or the movies or any of those things, we had the right to say yes or no to the deal. And then as part of our arrangements on the deal is that we had to have approval over the story, what our characters look like, the portrayal of them, because you really want to protect your creations. You wouldn't want something that, say, you intended for a much younger, say, a kid's audience, becomes something like something evil and violent, and for a much different audience that would take away from what you originally created for your character. So we had complete say and complete control, and we worked with some really talented people to make those things happen the way they did. So.
And it's been really cool to like watch it evolve, and then it goes on from generation to generation. And so one of the kids wanted to know, what was that like? Like, was it scary publishing that first edition and like kind of putting yourself out there? Because I can imagine that you might not have had all the support in the world, but you knew enough to believe in yourselves.
Well, that's the thing. That's a good point. And the point was for us is that we went into publishing that first issue assuming that we might not sell one single copy, that it might not work at all. But what was important to us is that was the dream that we had. So whether it was a huge success or a huge failure, we wanted to do that. And even if it was a failure, because we very much wanted to be cartoonists and comic book and storytellers, that we would have kept doing it. Maybe, if the first one didn't work, then maybe the second one will work, or another idea will work, and keep working at your craft. It's sort of like, again, I referenced if you're interested in sports and you're in a race, if you lose a race, it doesn't mean you're going to stop running, or stop because you lose a game or you lose a race. You're going to keep trying and try harder. The same with being a musician, you get better, that kind of thing. So it's stay true to your idea, stay true to yourself, and work hard. But it's all scary, but it's worth it in the end.
Oh, it seems like a good kind of scary. It definitely worked out big time.
We're very lucky, yes.
So we'll go with maybe a couple more questions. We'll let you go before 30 after. And so one of the kids want to know, and Miss Davidson, I know your kids are there. I see them there. If they have any questions for Mr. Eastman, just put them in the chat. You guys can all wave. So one of the kids wanted to know, do you have a favorite turtle? And then a second question is, do you have a favorite villain?
Oh, very good question. It is always hard to choose a favorite turtle because I feel like, like they're all my children, so to speak. But when certain fans would say, well, you have to pick one, which one would it be? I'll choose Michelangelo. Like the little drawing you see on my hat here is the very first doodle of the very first turtle ever drawn. And it was Michelangelo. Before Michelangelo became Michelangelo, so he had a mask on and he's holding nunchucks. And so if I had to choose one, I would choose Michelangelo, but I actually really love all of the turtles. And for villains, it's tough because there's the Shredder's, obviously the biggest, the baddest, the meanest, but I've always been very fond of Krang, because I thought he was kind of a silly bad guy. He had these crazy ideas to conquer the world, and they usually didn't work out. But so I'd say Shredder, Krang, of course, and then Bebop and Rocksteady were always fun. They always gave the turtles a tough time. So I'd put those in the top of the list.
Very, very cool. And before we let you go, we'll have one more question at the end. But Miss Davidson, you should be able to unmute. Are you wearing? She's big into the Ninja Turtles. I saw her wearing a Ninja Turtles shirt at this school. It's my son's school. Yeah. So, Miss Davidson, are you guys good on questions? Or okay, they're all good. So before we let you go, is there any advice that you could give to these kids as they go off into the world and figure out what they want to do, whether it's in art or something else?
Absolutely, and I'd say I love the shirt, Miss Davidson. It's like because the names of the turtles came after very specific artists that I was a fan of. When I was growing up, I was a big fan of art history, and so the names of Leonardo, Michelangelo, Raphael, and Donatello came from my appreciation and love for Renaissance artists and art in general. So it's a really neat shirt that they sort of depict them as the original guys. But my advice is, and it's kind of like how I followed my dream, and my dream to be a cartoonist was it's something I really loved and something I really wanted to do. And even when a lot of people were like, oh, you can't do that, or you can't make a living at that, or oh, you're not good enough to do that, you have to sort of push that away and aside, because you don't want anybody to take your dream away from you. If you really believe in it, you believe in yourself, and you work hard at it, I feel that you can succeed at anything you put your mind to. So I always, put the naysayers to the side, and I said, well, you have your opinion, but I'm going to do what I want to do. And much like I mentioned, if you like writing, or if you like sports, or you want to be a musician, you really have to work at it every single day. I draw every day. I'm almost 60 years old, and I've drawn pretty much every day of my life, and I'm very lucky that I'm able to do that. But to get better at what you want to do, you really have to put everything into it. And you can have a busy life, a busy schedule, but every day set aside a little bit of time to follow your dream.